Don't touch my children. Naomi Corleone's scream tore through the cemetery as Victoria Bateman's hands reached for 3-year-old Maya. Rain hammered down in sheets, turning the gravesite into chaos. Elijah and Zara clung to their mother's legs, wailing, while strangers in expensive black suits closed in from all sides. "You're hysterical," Victoria hissed, her manicured nails digging into Maya's tiny arm. "Someone call security. She's clearly unstable." Rain hammered the black umbrellas like bullets. "Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Quick question before we dive deeper into Naomi's story. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. These stories take time to craft, and your support means everything. Now, let's see just how far this family is willing to go. Naomi Corleone stood at the graveside, her 3-year-old triplets clinging to her legs, Elijah sobbing into her dress, Maya silent and wide-eyed, and Zara with her small fists clenched tight. The casket descended into the earth, taking with it the only man who had ever made her feel safe. Then she felt it. The coldness wasn't just the rain. Victoria Bateman, her mother-in-law, stood across the grave in a black Chanel suit that hadn't seen a single raindrop. Behind her, the entire Bateman family formed a wall of pale faces and pressed lips. No one had hugged Naomi. No one had looked at her children. "We need to talk," Victoria's voice cut through the downpour. "About the children." Naomi's breath caught. "What?" "They deserve stability." "Aprupeoma." Victoria's eyes were ice. "You're unemployed. You have no family. No support system. I'm their mother. And we are their blood." Richard Bateman, her father-in-law, stepped forward. His voice was low, dangerous. "Real blood. Not circumstantial." The word hung in the air like poison. Circumstantial. Naomi felt her knees weaken. Around her, the Bateman family closed in, aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them white, all of them staring at her like she was something that had infected their bloodline. "You people always have your hands out," Victoria said, her voice dropping to a whisper meant only for Naomi. "But not this time. Sign the papers. Walk away with a small settlement, and we'll make sure you're comfortable. Fight us, and you'll lose everything." Elijah's grip tightened on Naomi's leg. She could feel him shaking. "They're my children," Naomi whispered, rain and tears indistinguishable on her face. "For now," Victoria smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "But we have lawyers. Resources. What do you have?" The funeral director approached, uncomfortable. "The family cars are ready." "Mrs. Corleone will take a taxi," Richard interrupted. "The family will ride together." Naomi watched, paralyzed, as they began walking toward the limousines. Victoria turned back once. "We'll be in touch about the children. And the house. That property has been in the Bateman family for generations. It was never really yours." Then they were gone, leaving Naomi standing in the rain with 3 terrified children and a grief so heavy she could barely breathe. The locks had been changed. Naomi stood outside the colonial mansion she'd called home for 4 years, her key useless in the door. The triplets sat on the front steps, confused. Zara was trying not to cry. Maya had stopped talking entirely. "Mommy, why can't we go inside?" Elijah asked. Before she could answer, a black Mercedes pulled up. A man in a gray suit emerged, holding a folder. "Naomi Corleone?" "Yes. You've been served." He handed her papers. "Eviction notice. The property belongs to the Bateman estate. You have 72 hours. Her hands trembled. "But my husband, he told me this was ours." "The deed was never transferred. Legally, you're a tenant. Mr. Bateman died before completing the paperwork." The man's face was neutral, practiced. "I'm sorry for your loss." He drove away. Naomi sank onto the steps beside her children, papers scattered around her. She opened the first document. Notice of intent to seek emergency custody. The words blurred. They were coming for her babies. The attorney's office smelled like old leather and expensive cologne. "They have a case," the lawyer said, leaning back in his chair. "You're unemployed. You have no family support. The Batemans can provide financial stability, education, legacy. I can provide love, Naomi said, her voice breaking. Courts want more than love, Ms. Corleone. He tapped his pen. They want housing, income, insurance, college funds. What can you show them? I'll get a job. In 72 hours? While caring for triplets. He shook his head. I'm being honest with you. If you fight this without resources, you'll rack up legal fees you can't pay and still lose. My advice? Negotiate. Maybe you can get visitation rights. Visitation. Naomi stood, her legs shaking. They're my children. Not according to the law. According to the law, you're an unemployed widow with no assets, no income, and no support system. The Batemans are a prominent family with unlimited resources. Do the math. Naomi walked out before he could finish. The shelter smelled like disinfectant and desperation. They'd been there for 2 weeks. The triplets slept in a single cot beside her. Every night, Maya had nightmares. Every morning, Zara asked when they could go home. Elijah had stopped laughing entirely. Naomi lay awake, listening to the sounds of families breaking apart in neighboring rooms.
Crying.
Fighting. The hollow echo of people who'd lost everything. She'd applied to 43 jobs. No callbacks. The custody hearing was in 5 days. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Last chance. Sign over custody, take the $50,000 settlement, and walk away. Otherwise, we'll make sure you never work in this city again. We have connections everywhere.
VB.
Naomi stared at the message until her vision blurred.
$52,000.
It wouldn't last a year, and her children would grow up thinking she'd abandoned them, that she'd chosen money over them. She looked at her babies, tangled together in sleep.
No.
She deleted the text. The interview was at a cleaning company. The manager, a tired woman with kind eyes, looked at Naomi's resume. 4-year gap in employment. I was raising my children. They're triplets. The woman nodded slowly. I have kids too. I get it. She paused. The job is overnight shifts. Cleaning office buildings downtown. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Pays $15 an hour. I'll take it. What about childcare? Naomi's throat tightened. I'll figure it out. The woman studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled out a card. There's a community center 2 blocks from here. They have a crisis nursery, free overnight care for parents in emergency situations. Tell them Monica sent you. Naomi took the card with shaking hands. Thank you. We've all been where you are, honey. Some of us just got luckier. Monica stood, extended her hand. Start Monday. Don't be late. The first night, Naomi cried in the bathroom of a law firm while scrubbing toilets. The second night, her back screamed from pushing industrial vacuum cleaners across miles of carpet. The third night, she found herself in the executive floor of a building she recognized. Bateman Holdings. Her late husband's family business occupied 5 floors. She was cleaning the top one, Richard Bateman's private office. Naomi stood in the doorway, looking at the massive desk, the awards on the walls, the family photos where her husband had been cropped out. Then she saw it. A folder on the desk, left open. The header read, Confidential, Estate Planning. She shouldn't look, but her hands moved anyway. Inside were documents, financial statements, and a letter, handwritten, dated 2 weeks before her husband died. Dad, I've transferred the house deed to Naomi's name. It's done. I know you disagree, but she's my wife and the mother of my children. That property is theirs now, free and clear. The paperwork is with Thompson and Associates. I've also updated my will. Everything goes to Naomi and the kids. I need you to respect this. Your son. Naomi's hands trembled. The deed had been transferred, which meant everything they'd told her was a lie. Quick pause. If this story is hitting you in the chest, let me know in the comments. Type justice if you're ready to see Naomi rise. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss what happens next. Naomi photographed every page with her phone. She worked mechanically, her mind racing. They'd stolen her house. They'd lied about the deed. They were using their power and connections to take her children. But now she had proof. When she got back to the shelter that night, the triplets were sleeping. She sat on the floor beside their cot, scrolling through the photos, piecing together the truth. Her husband had protected them. He'd made sure they'd be taken care of. But his family had buried it all, using their lawyers and influence to erase his wishes. Naomi's grief hardened into something else.
Rage. Pure, focud, burning rage.
She opened her phone and searched for attorneys. Not the ones who'd turned her away. The ones who fought dirty. The ones who took on powerful families and won. She found a name, Jessica Chun, a lawyer who specialized in estate fraud and family law. Her website showed a record of victories against corporate dynasties. Naomi sent an email at 3 a.m., attaching the photos. They told me the deed was never transferred. I found proof they lied. I have 3 children they're trying to take from me. I can't pay you now, but I will. Please help me. She hit send. Then she lay down beside her children and slept for the first time in weeks. The response came at 7 a.m. Meet me at my office today at 2 p.m. Bring everything you have. Don't talk to the Batemans or their lawyers. J.C. Jessica Chen's office was small, cluttered with case files, and smelled like coffee and determination. The lawyer was younger than Naomi expected, mid-30s, sharp eyes, and a reputation for making wealthy families uncomfortable. Tell me everything, Jessica said. Naomi did. The funeral. The locks changed. The eviction. The custody threat. The photos from Richard's office. Jessica's expression never changed, but her pen moved rapidly across a legal pad. When Naomi finished, Jessica leaned back. They forged documents. Falsified property records. Committed fraud to steal your home and discredit you in custody proceedings. She smiled, and it was predatory. I'm going to enjoy this. Can you stop the custody hearing? Better. I'm going to flip it. Jessica pulled out a file. We're going to file an emergency motion to block them from contacting your children. Then we're filing a civil suit for fraud, emotional distress, and defamation. And we're going to request a full audit of the estate. I can't pay. Contingency. I take 30% of whatever we win. And trust me, we're going to win big. Jessica stood. But I need you to do something for me. Anything. Keep working. Keep being a good mother. Don't engage with them. Don't respond to their messages. Don't take their calls. Let me handle everything legal. You focus on showing the court exactly what kind of mother you are. Naomi nodded, tears streaming down her face. For the first time since the funeral, she felt something other than despair. She felt hope. The court order came 3 days later. Emergency injunction granted. The Bateman family is prohibited from contacting Naomi Corleone or her children pending investigation into allegations of estate fraud. Naomi read it 10 times, sitting on the shelter cot with her children playing on the floor. Maya had started talking again. Zara was smiling. Elijah had laughed yesterday for the first time in a month. They were safe.
For now.
The months that followed were brutal. Naomi worked overnight shifts cleaning offices. During the day, she slept in 4-hour bursts, took the triplets to free library programs, and attended community college classes online, accounting and business management. Monica, her manager, promoted her to shift supervisor. The pay increased to $18 an hour. It wasn't enough, but it was progress. Jessica filed motion after motion, each one more devastating than the last. The Batemans fought back with expensive lawyers, but Jessica had something they didn't. The truth. The local news picked up the story. Prominent family accused of defrauding widow, attempting to steal grandchildren. Suddenly, the Batemans' perfect reputation had cracks. Naomi started a small business on the side, cleaning services for residential clients. She hired 2 other women from the shelter, both single mothers trying to rebuild. Word spread. The business grew. She named it Phoenix Rising Cleaning Services. Within 6 months, she had 15 employees and contracts with 3 apartment complexes. Within a year, She'd saved enough to move out of the shelter into a small apartment. It wasn't a mansion, but it was theirs. The triplets each had their own bed. Maya painted the walls. Zara organized their toys. Elijah helped his mother cook dinner every night. They were healing. The deposition was held in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Victoria Bateman sat across from Jessica, her lawyer beside her. She wore pearls and contempt in equal measure. Mrs. Bateman, you stated under oath that the property deed was never transferred to Naomi Corleone. Is that correct? Yes. Jessica slid a document across the table. Then can you explain this recorded deed, filed with the county 2 weeks before your son's death, transferring full ownership to Mrs. Corleone? Victoria's face went white. Can you also explain these emails between you and your attorney, discussing how to handle the situation and remove the problem, referring to Mrs. Corleone? And these text messages where you instructed your son-in-law to change the locks before she realizes what's happening? Victoria's lawyer put a hand on her arm. We need a recess.
No.
Jessica leaned forward. We need answers. You deliberately defrauded a grieving widow. You attempted to steal her children. You used your wealth and influence to manipulate the legal system. And now you're going to pay for it. The settlement offer came 2 days later. $2.3 million. Full restoration of the property. All legal fees paid. A public apology. Jessica called Naomi while she was supervising a cleaning crew at a hotel. They're offering to settle. Naomi's hands shook. How much? Jessica told her. Naomi sat down on the hotel lobby couch, breathing hard. What do you think? She asked. I think we can get more if we go to trial. But trials are risky, and they're exhausting. It's your call. Naomi thought about her children, about the apartment they'd turned into a home, about the business she'd built from nothing, about the fact that she didn't need the Batemans' money to survive anymore. But they needed to understand what they'd tried to destroy. Go to trial, she said. Before we see what happens in court, I need to know, are you Team Naomi all the way? Comment Go Naomi below. And if you're loving this journey, don't forget to subscribe. We're about to watch everything come full circle. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The courtroom was packed. Local news cameras lined the back row. The Bateman family sat on one side, their expensive lawyers creating a wall of gray suits. Naomi sat on the other side with Jessica, wearing a simple black dress and her wedding ring. The prosecution presented evidence, methodically. Forged documents, deleted emails, text messages between family members discussing how to get rid of her and protect the bloodline. Financial records showing the Batemans had illegally accessed and frozen her late husband's accounts. Then came the witnesses. The lawyer who'd advised Naomi she had no case. He'd been paid $10,000 by the Batemans to discourage her. The eviction officer. He admitted he'd been told the property was vacant, not occupied by a widow with 3 children. The funeral director. He testified that Victoria had explicitly instructed him to make sure she doesn't ride with the family. Each testimony chipped away at the Batemans' defense. But the moment that broke them came when Jessica called Richard Bateman to the stand. Mr. Bateman, did you love your son? Of course. Then why did you try to erase his final wishes? Richard's jaw tightened. I did no such thing. Jessica pulled out the letter, the one Naomi had photographed in his office. This is your son's handwriting, correct? Yes. And in it, he explicitly states he transferred the property to his wife and updated his will to leave everything to her and their children. Correct. That letter is private. It's evidence. Did you receive this letter? Yes. And did you honor your son's wishes? Silence. Mr. Bateman, answer the question. No. His voice cracked. No, I didn't. Why not? Because. Richard looked at Naomi for the first time. Because she wasn't supposed to be part of this family. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel. Order. But the damage was done. Richard Bateman, patriarch of one of the city's most prominent families, had just admitted on the stand that he'd committed fraud because of racism. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, Naomi held her breath. In the matter of Corleone versus Bateman, we find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. The courtroom exploded. We award damages in the amount of $4.7 million, plus punitive damages of $2 million, plus all legal fees and court costs. Naomi couldn't breathe. Furthermore, we recommend the district attorney's office investigate potential criminal fraud charges. Jessica grabbed Naomi's hand. We won. You won. Naomi looked across the courtroom at Victoria, who sat frozen, her perfect composure finally shattered. Richard had his head in his hands. Their lawyers were frantically whispering. They had lost everything trying to take everything from her. The property deed was restored within a week. Naomi stood in front of the colonial mansion with the triplets. Elijah held the key. Maya carried a box of their belongings. Zara walked beside her mother, hand in hand. Are we really going home, Mommy? Maya asked. Yes, baby. We're going home. She unlocked the door. Inside, everything was exactly as they'd left it. The Batemans had kept it maintained, probably planning to move in themselves once they'd gotten rid of her. But they hadn't counted on her fighting back. The triplets ran through the house, rediscovering their rooms, their toys, their home. Naomi stood in the kitchen where she'd cooked breakfast with her husband, where they'd laughed and planned their future. We made it, she whispered. We actually made it. Phoenix Rising Cleaning Services moved into a new office downtown. Naomi hired 20 more employees, all women trying to rebuild their lives. She created benefits packages, childcare assistance, and educational programs. Within 2 years, it became the largest woman-owned cleaning service in the state. The Bateman's company, meanwhile, struggled. The scandal had destroyed their reputation. Clients left. Investors pulled out. The family that had once controlled a business empire watched it crumble. Richard and Victoria were forced to sell their estate to pay legal fees. Karma had teeth. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Bateman Holdings is facing bankruptcy. We are seeking investors to prevent liquidation. Given your late husband's connection to the company, we wanted to extend an offer for you to participate in the restructuring. Richard Bateman. Naomi read it twice. They were asking her for help. The family that had tried to destroy her was now begging her to save them. She called Jessica. What do you think? I think they're desperate. Their company is worth about $12 million right now, but it's hemorrhaging value. Without an investor, they'll lose everything. How much would it take to buy controlling interest? Jessica was quiet for a moment. About $7 million, which you have, thanks to the settlement. Naomi smiled. The meeting was held in the same conference room where Victoria had been deposed. The entire Bateman family sat around the table: Richard, Victoria, their 3 remaining children, and a skeleton crew of lawyers who looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Naomi arrived alone, wearing a tailored suit and carrying a leather portfolio. She sat at the head of the table. Thank you for coming, Richard said stiffly. You're welcome. Naomi opened her portfolio. I've reviewed your proposal. I'm prepared to invest. Relief flooded the room. However, I have conditions. The relief evaporated. I want controlling interest. 51%. I will serve as CEO. The board will be restructured. And this company will become a B corporation with a focus on community investment and ethical business practices. Richard's face turned red. That's not an investment. That's a hostile takeover.
No, Richard.
A hostile takeover is what you attempted against me. Naomi's voice was steel. This is justice. You tried to take my home, my children, my life. Instead, I'm taking your legacy.
Victoria stood, shaking.
You can't do this. I can, and I will. Naomi stood as well. You have 24 hours to decide. Accept my terms, or watch everything your family built disappear. The choice is yours. She walked out. They accepted. The paperwork was signed in Jessica's office. Richard's hand trembled as he wrote his name. Victoria refused to attend. Naomi Corleone became the majority owner and CEO of Bateman Holdings. She renamed it Legacy Holdings. Her first act was creating a diversity initiative and funding programs for underprivileged families. Her second was establishing a foundation in her late husband's name, scholarships for children who'd lost parents. The company, under her leadership, thrived. Within 3 years, it was worth $50 million. The Batemans remained shareholders, watching the woman they'd tried to destroy build an empire from the ashes of their hatred. The triplets grew up in the mansion, now filled with love and laughter. Elijah became interested in law, inspired by Jessica. Maya started painting, her art covering the walls. Zara developed a passion for business, shadowing her mother at work. They knew their story. Naomi had never hidden it from them. "Mommy fought for us," Elijah told his kindergarten class during show and tell. "She's a superhero." Naomi stood in the back of the classroom, tears streaming down her face. She'd lost everything and gained it back tenfold. Not through hatred or revenge, but through resilience, truth, and the kind of love that refuses to break. 5 years after the funeral, Naomi received a package. No return address. Just her name, typed on a label. Inside was a USB drive and a note written in shaky handwriting. "I can't live with this anymore. You deserve to know the truth. A friend." Naomi plugged the USB into her laptop. It contained a single video file, dated the week before her husband died. She pressed play. The video showed her husband's car, parked outside a restaurant. Security camera footage, grainy but clear. Her husband got in, started the engine. Then a figure approached the driver's side window. Richard Bateman. They argued. Richard's face was twisted with rage. Her husband looked frightened. Then Richard walked away. 2 minutes later, her husband drove off. The next clip showed the intersection where the accident happened, where her husband's car had run a red light and been hit by a truck. But in this footage, something was visible that hadn't been in the police report. Her husband's brake lights never illuminated. The car didn't slow down. It just went straight through the intersection, like he'd lost control. Naomi's blood turned to ice. She rewound the footage, played it again. Watched Richard approach the car. Watched him walk away with something in his hand, small, metallic, like a device that could cut brake lines, or disable them remotely. The video ended. Naomi sat frozen, her heart pounding. It hadn't been an accident. They'd killed him. She called Jessica. "I need you to see something." They met within an hour. Jessica watched the video 3 times, her expression darkening. "This is probable cause for a murder investigation. Can we prove it?" "We can try." "But Naomi..." Jessica paused. "This will destroy them completely. It will also open up your life to scrutiny again. The trial, the media, everything."
Are you ready for that?
Naomi thought about her husband. About the last time she'd seen him alive, kissing the triplets goodbye before work. About the future they'd planned that had been stolen. She thought about Richard Bateman, still living in a downsized condo, but living nonetheless.
Free.
Unpunished. "I'm ready," she said. Jessica nodded. "Then let's finish this." The evidence was turned over to the district attorney. An investigation was opened. The press exploded. Was Business Heir's death actually murder? New evidence emerges in Bateman family scandal. Richard Bateman was brought in for questioning. Naomi didn't watch the news coverage. She focused on her children, her business, her life. But late at night, she looked at the photo of her husband on her nightstand and whispered, "I'm getting justice for you. I promise." 6 months later, Naomi stood in her kitchen making breakfast for the triplets. Maya was showing her a new painting. Zara was reading the business section of the newspaper. Elijah was helping scramble eggs.
The doorbell rang.
Jessica stood on the porch, holding a folder.
They arrested him, she said.
Richard Bateman. The forensic analysis confirmed the brake line had been tampered with. The security footage, combined with phone records showing he called your husband demanding a meeting the night before, was enough. The DA is charging him with second-degree murder. Naomi's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the porch steps. It's really over? This part is. The trial will take time.
But yes.
He's facing 20 years to life. Naomi looked up at the sky, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she whispered. You did this, Jessica said softly. You never gave up. You fought for yourself and your kids. You won. That evening, Naomi gathered the triplets in the living room. I have something to tell you about your father, she said. They listened as she explained, in terms they could understand, that the accident hadn't been an accident, that bad people had done a bad thing, but that justice was coming. Will Grandpa Richard go to jail? Elijah asked. Yes, baby. Good, Zara said fiercely. He tried to take us away from you. But he didn't, Maya added. Because you're stronger than all of them. Naomi pulled her children close, breathing in their warmth, their love, their resilience. They'd been through hell and emerged on the other side. Not broken, not defeated, transformed. The trial would come. The media circus would return. But Naomi Corleone was ready. She'd already survived the worst they could do to her. She'd already rebuilt from nothing. She'd already taken control of the legacy they'd tried to steal. And now, finally, she would see justice for the man who'd loved her, protected her, and given her 3 beautiful reasons to never give up. The woman who'd stood in the rain at a funeral, drowning in grief and injustice, was gone. In her place stood a mother, a CEO, a fighter, a survivor, a queen. If this story moved you, I need to hear from you. Comment "Justice for Naomi" below. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's possible to rise from the ashes. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. These stories matter. Your support makes them possible. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing Naomi's journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay fierce, and never let anyone tell you that you can't rebuild from nothing. Because you can. And you will. The Yendi. Or is it? Part 2 coming soon, the trial.